Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Mean Age Daydream here on the Lions Liberty Network. I am not in a good mood. I am, I think, about as angry as I've ever been in a political sense, having watched Thomas Massie, Congressman Thomas Massie, who, remember, still has 7 months left on his term, got primaried by Ed Gowrine. Gowrine? I don't know how you say his name. I'll say Gowrine, um, who was clearly an empty suit propped up by Israel, propped up by AIPAC, and of course, propped up by Donald Trump, who I now hate with every fiber of my being. I had previously looked at the things that Trump had done parcel by parcel, right? Okay, he's trying to do this, he's trying to do that, he's trying to do, whatever, and giving credit where credit's due and try to take it all in as a whole while also remembering that independently you can appreciate different aspects of what he's done during his administration. But frankly, this quest to oust Thomas Massie, who was one of the very few actually principled congressmen, one of the very few people in all of government who was principled, who targeted the right things to talk about, to oppose. And of course, this pissed egomaniac Donald Trump off because he could not simply walk over and get everything passed without some debate with Thomas Massie. And Thomas Massie would break these things down very clearly, very cogently, and in a way that people could understand, pointing out that you do not need to bake in domestic spying bills within your omnibus spending bills, that you don't need to have, things like CISPA in there, that you don't need to have things like the automobile auto triggers, that allow the government to turn off all of our cars, that allow them to constantly surveil us while we're using our cars. And to even drive a car, you now have to pass a government mandated test of your cognitive abilities, your wakefulness, God knows what else, your sobriety, your panic levels, whatever it might be. Thomas Massie rightly stood in the way of these things, which of course never stopped them anyway, because all of these sycophants to the global empire and to the machine that is politics and authoritarianism in the United States simply pushed them through regardless in the uniparty system. I now look at Donald Trump as a racketeering piece of shit. The fact that Thomas Massie was primaried, much in thanks to Donald Trump's nonstop campaigning against him, which, of course, it doesn't just stop with Donald Trump issuing his statements from the White House, which are, by the way, full of lies, as easily debunked, because don't forget, Donald Trump backed Thomas Massie, and Thomas Massie voted with Republicans 99 or 91% of the time. The other 9%, as he himself said, he was voting against pedophiles, or to expose pedophiles, or to expose domestic spying and all these other things that are absolutely un-American, unconstitutional, and should be opposed. But Donald Trump naturally is echoed across Fox News, Newsmax, and all of the other boomer-centric cable programs which they're locked into. And we know that the boomers, as as I said in the title of this episode, Israel Boomer alles, making a reference to Germany Uber alles. Boomers are still completely brainwashed by the last 25 to 30 years of Israel propaganda that they watched every day on cable news and read every day in the newspaper, because they are the last generation, the most ignorant generation when it comes to the reality of our current situation, and the most easily propagandized. This is just straight facts. When you look at the way in which people imbibe information, boomers still rely on cable news. Cable news is in a large part bought and paid for. We know that already. And also is simply catering to the lowest common denominator of that political spectrum. And they do it ad nauseum. So when you have Donald Trump create these attack speeches that go out there, and he posts them on Truth Social, and he posts them to X, and issues these things out of the White House. When you have a situation like that, of course, you're going to have the mainstream media, the cable news outlets, prop it up, repeat it ad nauseum. So it's kind of like an old advertising slogan. The old adage was that you had to see an advertisement 7 times before it stuck in your brain. Well, Donald Trump knows how to use the media. And he knows that when you add in his ability to garner media coverage on top of a already, caustic figure in Thomas Massie, somebody who draws attention anyway for standing up to Trump for the liberal media, well, now you have a perfect storm, because all your right-wing boomer retards are going to believe the narrative that only Democrats support Thomas Massie, when, as you'll see reading through X, as you'll see reading through any social media platforms, people are furious about this. Kentucky embarrassed itself by going along with this sham, by going along with the Israel-backed, Israel first, make Israel great again philosophy that is Donald Trump. And these boomers, many of whom are old school Christians still, and believe in Israel's right and believe in Israel's, God-given right by the powers that be to exist, and that they're in the Bible and yada, yada, yada. So they're going to go along with Israel no matter what. And then you combine that with the number of times they see these smears and lies about Thomas Massie on Fox News. You echo that with the fact that they see Democrats coming out in defense of him. And then you combine that with the $25 million that was spent by opponents of Thomas Massie that are now inundating every platform with attack ads against him. The boomers never had a chance. And that doesn't excuse them. You should have some base level of logic or some base level of the ability to look through some of these very clear historic voting patterns. The fact that he was Turning Point USA's #1 congressman on the Freedom Index and on every Freedom Index. You should have that ability. I know you don't know how to use a computer that well, but you should have that baseline ability to fact check what's being told to you instead of just completely buying the lies and the horseshit. But look, this isn't even something we can paste just on age. When you look at the way in which boomers have voted for en masse, just the worst possible outcomes. Like, think about not just Thomas Massie, but the fact that they support all these wars that are ongoing, the fact that they bought in to the concept of American exceptionalism and American militarism being tied into one. The fact that, I talked about this recently. I had a conversation with my father about the Iran war and Israel, and he's like, well, we need to go in there. And I almost lost my goddamn mind because everything he was saying was wrong. None of it adds up, but it is the old school propagandization of the boomer class into, we have to go in, we have to fight him over there, or we have to fight him over here, which is nonsense. And the propagandization from Israel that anybody that gets a nuke, especially Iran, is going to instantly use that nuke on us here, which is nonsense. Fundamentally flawed thinking that would destroy their nation and wipe their power off the face of the earth, which benefits them in what way? I'm sorry, you can tell me they're religious fanatics. Guess what? They, like basically all major religions and religious fanatic leadership, use that religion as a power base. The people that are espousing that religion very rarely actually follow it in their own lives, and they enjoy all of the royalty, all of the gems, all of the champagne flutes that they are provided by keeping that in place. They're not going to risk that by setting off a nuke in a city here, which they know would lead to the destruction and the glassification of their society. It's not going to happen. It's moronic on its face. But these people buy into this concept, so they continue to support the wars. They supported the war in Iraq. They supported the war in Iran right now. They continue to support the war in Ukraine because we got to fight them because the Ruskies. They supported all of the worst economic platforms because they were propagandized into thinking, oh, yeah, we should have reverse mortgages. Oh, yeah, we need to take care of these people. Oh, yeah, we need these bailouts. Oh, yeah, we can keep spending the money, right? When did Keynes get his big up? Oh, yeah, during the boomer years. And then, of course, the endless spending. Convinced that they should keep getting all the benefits, all the largesse that they've been used to, even though they've taken out of the system far more than they've ever put in, leaving us all with mass amounts, still $38 trillion, maybe it's even farther than that, in spending. This all came during the years when the boomers were in office, half of them are still in office. They won't leave either because they're egomaniacal, they're narcissists, they're self-centered monsters who refuse to look outside of their own bubble or self-interest into the future. I don't know what happened to this generation. Maybe it's because they just came out of a war state. Maybe they say, live for today because we're going to be doing a World War III tomorrow. So they don't care about the spending or the trash that's left to later generations and how they've completely undermined what this country was good at, which was having individuals create something without all of this welfare spending, without all of these exceptional, trips out to across the world to fight God knows what, God knows where, in order to keep our military strong. I mean, they bought into all of the propaganda that they've ever been provided because they could, because they were living in the time of largesse for America. And they continue to believe that that's the time we're living in when times have changed. And it's just despicable. And this is like the culmination of boomer despicability. The fact that this was allowed to happen. And as I say, I blame the boomers because the boomers are who voted for against Thomas Massie. The boomers are who voted for this Gowrine asshole, which was hilarious to watch his celebration. Thomas Massie's got thousands of people when he's in there giving his concession speech. And again, joking that, he tried to reach Gowrine, but he couldn't because he was hard to get hold of in Tel Aviv. And of course, Ted Cruz, you shouldn't have said that. Fuck you, Ted Cruz. You fucking foreign agent piece of shit. So they showed Gowrine's celebration, or Gallreen, whatever, his celebration area at some little restaurant. It's like 15 people there because he's not real. He's an empty suit. He is a puppet, a propagandized tool. He is somebody that Israel just decided to stuff. I mean, literally, they stuffed a suit full of money. This fucking guy who was, by the way, a person who left the Republican Party when Donald Trump came into office. This is the same guy that Trump endorses, of course. They left the Republican Party because Trump came in office and then was a DEI consultant. That's who this asshole is. Refuses to debate. I thought boomers were of the generation where you had to come and prove that you were a man, prove that you were what you said, what you were talking about, that you were a man of your word. This piece of trash wouldn't even come debate Thomas Massie because he knew that he would get his ass torn apart. So instead, he just hid in a bunker. He hid in one of the Jew tunnels like the Jews in New York City made, and gets propped up by $25 million in AIPAC spending led by Miriam Adelson, and gets to waltz into this because asshole boomers voted for him in Kentucky. And if you look at the breakdown, everybody under 55 went Massie. And it was like 70% of people under 55 went Massie. And meanwhile, 66% of people over 55 went for Gowrine. That's the level of idiocy that exists. 66% of the people in Kentucky, at least that are conservatives, are absolute fucking morons. Just crazy. I mean, the bright side of this is that it frees up Thomas Massie maybe to make a run for libertarian president. I'd like to see that. It also allows him to maybe even run as a Democrat or independent when it comes to the actual election. It would be hilarious if all this money was spent on Gowrine and then Thomas Massie runs. And in Kentucky, your Democrats know their candidate's not going to win, right? Flat out, their candidate will not win. So if you're Thomas Massie, why not say, I'll do an independent run or I'll run Democrat? Because every Democrat would rather vote for Thomas Massie than Gowrine, Trump-backed, Israel-backed Gowrine. I think he actually would win. And then we'll see what happens after that. Maybe he does run for president. But what I love about this, and we were talking about this on a Mufasa call, is that, look, Thomas Massie being out is horrible. He has 7 months left to still expose names, to call out all the shit that's been going on behind the scenes that maybe he was hampered by in the past. So that's good to see. But also, they've just showcased on a world stage here because everybody's looking. AIPAC tweeted out the fact that they're so proud that they ousted anti-Israel activists, spending all this money, to which, of course, I replied, why don't you just spit on the American flag? Because that's what this is. It's a foreign nation buying a congressional seat. But you've showcased to all of America that we don't own our own country, that Israel is running the show. As I said, Israel boomer alles. And that's going to go away real quick. That's why they're spending all this money now, by the way, because they know this is the last gasp. This is the last hurrah. This is the last real potent impact boomers are going to have on our society. And Israel knows that if you read the tea leaves, which we can all read pretty easily, the younger generation ain't fans of Israel. Not fans of our money being shipped overseas for these fuckers. Not fans of being drugged into war for these fuckers. Not fans of our congressmen being bought by these fuckers. So that's why they're spending big now. They're trying to get everything they can out of America before that well goes dry. And you're watching it right now. You're watching that pillaging of our coffers, of our military, of our stockpiles. You're watching it happen in real time because they know that that cupboard's going to be bare for them real soon. So they got to get every single crumb they can out of it now. And it's just to see people saying that somehow calling this out as anti-Semitic, which I've seen people online doing, Ted Cruz's of the world. Oh, Jewish hate. We're seeing so much Jewish hate. No, you're seeing anti-state of Israel hate for a very good reason. For a very, very good reason. Now, one more thing, and then this is going to be a shorter show. I'm too fucking pissed off. And really, this has just dominated everything I've been paying attention to the last couple of days. So I'll make one more comment on this, and then we'll just call it a short show this week. And then I got to go to the Libertarian National Convention. So if you guys are there, come up and say what's up to me. I'll be there as of Friday evening this week. Long day of travel. Get out there from here. Well, last thing is that, Miriam Adelson had given Trump $100 million, right, campaign. So he's bought and paid for, man. And I know, like I said before, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt with some of these other theories, the Promethean theory that he is undermining London's power base of control over the economy and dark money. So look, maybe there's something to that. We'll see. But at the same time, I look at where the money's flowing and where the money's coming from and his actions, his despicable, underhanded, inexcusable actions. And I now look at the fact that there's something like $34 million being spent for the Department of Justice to go on a 15-city, let's get people to be nicer to the Jews tour, which, I joked about this last episode, the fact that, we have right now more than any other time, considering the actions of Israel, which just got worse after last night's primary results, you have more real reasons to blatantly say Israel is bad for America than ever before. And at the same time, you have these Muslims doing marches and making me go, God damn it, what the fuck? Stop being violent to Jews. You can have it both ways, people. You cannot be violent to Jews and also criticize them, which is where should we going? But we now are spending $34 million to combat, quote, anti-Semitism or anti-Jew hate, anti-Semitic rhetoric and actions and thoughts and whatever else. 15-city tour. Now, there's no way this is going to do shit. It's not going to do anything. The only thing this is going to lead to is probably more quote-unquote hate crime laws, which we all know are bullshit anyway. Subjective, ridiculous, extra punishment for people for what is already a crime. And on top of that, what are they going to do? Put up billboards? Now, every campaign that has ever been run that's an anti-hate campaign just leads to more hate. It's like the entire progressive mantra. I mean, look at the SPLC, for fuck's sake, having to gin up hatred. Why do you think they do? Half of this is spending that puts up those horrible posters that portray white people in the subway as being the violent ones, which all that does is piss off white people. And I'm sure that's for a reason. It's to instigate more hate. That's the purpose of this. So this anti-Semitism tour that Department of Justice is spending $34 fucking million that we don't have on is simply going to add more gas to the fire while accomplishing nothing except making people in Israel even happier that their money is being well spent. Just fucking unbelievable. One more quick thing, then I'll finish this up as well. This is off topic, but still quasi this religious quote unquote violence. But yesterday there was an attack in San Diego, or maybe it was 2 days ago, actually. 2 days ago, the attack in San Diego, where a Hispanic trans couple, which of course didn't come out right away, they wanted to hide that. A Hispanic trans couple had tried to shoot up a mosque, which had women and children and everything in it, killing a security guard. Funny twist to that, the security guard also was massively anti-Semitic. Surprise at the mosque. Shocker there, right? Did I say synagogue or I meant mosque? If I did say synagogue, apologies. But the security guard at the mosque, now they found all these social media posts of him saying that Hitler was on the right track and knew that the Jews were evil. So, there's no good guys here. And this is what I'd said when we discussed this, actually, on the Mufasa call we did, was that while I will say and agree with anybody that says, look, violence is not the answer here. People should not be shooting up mosques, as I, at the same time, talk about the danger of Islam and how we are in a culture and religious war right now. And you do need to pick a side because this is a conquering ideology. But no, people should not be shooting up mosques, especially with women and children inside. But I'd say that the funny thing is, I'll say that, and I'll say, oh God, thank God no children were killed in this shooting. The people on the other side, the people in that mosque, would not say the same thing where they were shooting, like another trans shooting at a Catholic school where children died. They would say, thank God those infidels are dead. That's the difference here between the two ideologies. And again, this is showcased by these posts by the security guard, who people were like, what a hero. Well, yeah, again, he was a hero for stopping the attack, but the guy's also posting Hitler memes saying, you know, he was on the right track with what he was doing with the Jews. So interesting tidbit. But, you know, I'm curious to see, I know these trans murderers or would be child shooters, they had a manifesto. I've not gotten a chance to look through that yet. I think this came out yesterday to see why they wanted to go and kill these people. But apparently they also, and again, I'm not ready yet. This is just something I saw written, also had blamed the Jews, which is very confusing. So we're left in a very confusing state. The only thing we're not confused about is the fact that there is a absolutely irrefutable trend in trans mass shooters, which I think has to come back to, as I said earlier, the fact that these people are over medicated. They are completely brainwashed. They are misdiagnosed with severe mental disorders and convinced that the trans is the solve for all their ills, and end up becoming violent psychopaths. That's a big thing that needs to be addressed. And I don't think that there's any way in hell the media can cover it up anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future, how these things are diagnosed and treated, and including people that are currently on these various hormones. Dark days, people. Dark days. All right, that's it. From me, Brian McWilliams, from the Alliance of Liberty podcast, and from Me and Age Daydream. Keep those electric eyes on me, babe, and keep that ray gun boop to my head. I will talk to you later.